What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? The math teacher left his wife of 18 years for one of the graduating seniors. My English teacher in the 11th grade was sleeping with the whole girls' basketball team in exchange for straight A's. I actually failed English that year, but when that made the news, my school said I didn't have to go anymore because he wasn't doing the grading properly. Everyone who had his class got a B. One year in exams days, they were trying to add a new method to prevent cheating where a man from the administration comes to every class before every exam and collects students' phones while sticking a sticker with a number on each phone and giving the same sticker to the student so he can get his phone after school without anyone taking someone else's phone that looks alike or something. This was working at first and a bit preventing cheating until one day some guy sneaked into our high school and came as the man who collects the phones while he wasn't. He stole the whole high school phones and went lol. Holy shit, haha. Imagine the thrill of going classroom to classroom, in disguise, stealing phones. You reckon the real inspector was in on it? Probably no. There were multiple inspectors so that everyone starts their exams on time. If a real inspector came and asked people for their phones and they said someone else came and took them, he'd think that another inspector just collected from his class by mistake, and that's what happened. He just said, "Oh, all right, good luck with the exam," and went to the next class. My middle school banned hugging and hand-holding during course changes because it blocked the hall. In protest, all the 8th graders stood up and hugged each other during their lunch period. A bunch of students got detention. Made the cover of the Charlotte Observer. Edit. Thanks for the rewards all. I don't think I've gotten more than 100 likes or rewards before, but please spend your money on other things. People are in need this holiday season. Dude, everybody else talking about pedos and murder, and your big scandal is a big group hug. A student that was in the grade above me, I was a senior, he had graduated, killed his girlfriend, and buried her by the train tracks right behind the school. Freshman year. A junior accused the PE teacher of sexually assaulting her after hours in the locker room. He was put on leave and eventually got off on a technicality. Senior year, there was a freak snowstorm in April, during which the quietest, nicest stoner in our class went missing. A day later, they found his car in a ditch, and a week later, when the snow melted, they found his body, aged, crashed and in his presumed high AF state. Gotten out to walk for help with no coat on. He eventually found a telephone pole, sat down against it to rest, and was believed to have frozen to death in the storm. Seeing his mum at her only child's funeral still haunts me. The principal slept with a student and his nude sexts were leaked. Some students broke into a local elderly reverend's home to rob him, thinking he was away. He sadly wasn't, and they proceeded to bludgeon him and his wife to death while they were sleeping with baseball bats and beer bottles. They were caught pretty quickly, and although their names legally couldn't be published because they were minors, everyone, including the local media, knew who committed the crime. Media caused a circus at our school for weeks, harassing any student for comment. Many did because they thought it was cool. Although these 3 kids, 13, 14, 15, were known to cause trouble, no one ever suspected they would be capable of a double homicide. Edit. Included above link. Girl A decided to fight Girl B in class. Girl, a ripped girl, BS, real hair out, broke her nose, and crippled her. Girl B was sent to the emergency room. Girl A was suspended for 2 weeks. They were both in 7th grade. When I was in 5th grade, the male teacher I'd had in 4th grade was fired for helping a high school cheerleader undress. Looking back, he was a creeper. Edited to add, I was wrong. It was a 10-year-old. Just found it. A kid in my senior year short story class who sat directly behind me was charged with the stabbing, beheading and burning of one of his friends' drug dealer. I remember the day like it was yesterday. Sitting in my short story class when my teacher came in tears because she just heard the news. Students didn't find out about it until later. I actually have a friend who testified in his trial because he purchased the murdering materials at the hardware store she worked at. We had a computer teacher football assistant coach who was just blasted all day. Had so many doers he had to get rides to work, but was the cousin of the superintendent, so he kept his job. Let's just say that when he crashed a student's car in the parking lot because he convinced them to let him borrow it, that was the beginning of the end of it. It was a small town. The scandal is that the super tried to cover it up by trying to convince the kid to take the heat for it. To no one's surprise, the kid was not convinced. They let him stay on as super for another 2 years. This happened between my sister and brother graduating, so it would have been 1996 or 1997. The HSAG teacher started dating a student at some point. Everyone knew about it, and the parents consented. Our HS was and is small enough to still participate in senior trips, and the AG teacher went along as a chaperone when his girlfriend was a senior. They shared a hotel room when I believe the student was still technically a 17-year-old minor. At the time, I remember my parents being rather put off by it, but they still hired the guy as a summer farmhand. I don't remember if he was fired or stepped down, but by the time I made it to HS, we had a different AG teacher. They got married and had a child. Divorced maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Their kid goes to our HS now. I don't know why. It wasn't a huge deal at the time, but no one really raised a stink or threatened to call the authorities. Today, it feels like a case of grooming by a predatory farm boy. Of course, in many states, 16 is the age of consent. But almost everywhere, as far as I'm aware, has laws that state people in positions of authority, teachers, coach, policemen, clergy, etc., cannot do anything to those under their care. An abuse of authority equivalent to forcing someone. Student brutally murdered his parents. He was a friend and CO captain of the soccer team. His mum was my English teacher. Had a strict dress code that if the girls broke, had to change into clothes provided by the school. Turns out vice principal had a camera going in the dressing room. The 30-ish theatre teacher ran off with a recent grad. I was kind of pals with the student during a play the spring before the scandal, and she hosted the cast party where, in retrospect, they seemed a little cozier than appropriate. As much as I'm dying for the inside scoop, I can't imagine friending her on social media and asking, "So what was up with you and Mr.?" The caretaker killed 2 local girls and hid them in the school. He tried using the clay kiln to burn them. He later dumped them a few miles away. What the fuck? When was this? I'm guessing Op is referring to the Soham murders. It happened in August 2002. Thankfully, the guy who did it is rotting in prison. The chorus teacher got caught looking at Lolita porn on his school computer. This kid had nudes of his ex that his friend sent to a bunch of people in school, but he was 18 and she was 14 or 15. So he got expelled, and I believe he was charged with distributing child pornography. We had a whole assembly because of it, where the cops came and told us they could see everything on our phones. A kid in my grade and another girl, same girl as in the story above, actually had sex in the bathroom. I learned about it from my band teacher. In middle school 8th grade early 2000 seconds, one of the hot girls sent a couple nude pictures to her BF, and it wasn't long until half the school had them. Police ended up becoming involved to make sure all copies were destroyed. In high school, there was a little scandal involving the teachers and a teachers club called the Hot Tub Club. Faculty members that had hot tubs would host a weekly hot tub party with other hot tub owners. Turns out they were all getting wasted and having a swinging party every Wednesday. Somebody's spouse found out about it, and there was a huge exodus of hot tub teachers my senior year. Edit, the main people involved with the photo were reprimanded but not charged. The girl had a sit down with a counselor to discuss what happened, and we all had a big assembly to discuss the consequences that could happen if people shared those kind of images. It scared a lot of kids straight. Nobody was fired from the school for being in the hot tub club. Teachers left because it was convenient timing with the opening of another high school, and there was constant babble about it. Just for clarity, this all happened in a small town in Western Canada. By the looks of my inbox, both are not uncommon occurrences. How do you even start a swingers club with your CO workers? How does that conversation even happen? Hey Jerry, I've seen you looking up my wife, and yours isn't too bad looking either. What say you we do some swinging next Wednesday? Kid made a chlorine bomb and threw it in the trash can at lunch. Lockdown. Bomb squad, every single kid and faculty member out on the field in 95 weather for 2 hours until parents could show up to pick up their kids. The lunch lady was having sex with students and buying them alcohol. This happened at my high school as well. Lunch lady looked a lot like Tim Tebow. A teacher had an affair with the students. She was arrested and released on bail. Then a few days later, she sent an email to other teachers saying it wasn't an affair but that she was actually being raped by the student and blackmailed. She even attached screenshots of texts. Later that day, she murdered her husband and committed suicide. Edit. Whoa, this has really blown up. A few people have linked articles in the comments if you are curious. Kid in my class sent an email to the White House, threatening to kill Socks, the Clintons' cat. Secret Service showed up a few days later after they tracked down the computer. Edit to add. Link to the article. Teal how to avoid the draft. Did he get any punishment? Lifetime ban from ever working for the government. He was on the military track too, but they ripped up his contract. Life hack for the day, if you want to get out of working for the military. Threatened to kill an official's cat. First week of high school. PE class, the first section was swim. Wasn't my class, but the class after. This kid was playing a game with his friends in the water who could hold their breath the longest. He was going up for air and hit head on the pointy part of the gutter and never made it to the surface. Friends didn't notice. Teacher didn't notice. Eventually, football players coming back to the locker rooms noticed. He ended up dying. Teacher was fired, although I wouldn't fully blame him as he was attending and teaching kids who didn't know how to swim or weren't strong swimmers. One adult for over 60 kids? That's the school's fault. I understand the teacher not noticing, but the friends who were directly competing with the kid didn't notice. As a lifeguard, I can confirm that even if there is only one perso in the pool, two of us need to be on the chairs. If that person somehow knocks her head and falls unconscious, we need two lifeguards to stabilize her while a third one in the office comes in and brings the dorsal plank, I don't know how it's called in English, while the first lifeguard does the proper treatments while the last one calls an ambulance. Teacher was fired? Depending on the rules over where you are, he could have sued the school for those high safety risks. One person for 60 kids is beyond dangerous. Yeah, that seems pretty unfair on the guy. Something bound to happen with that many people. I was in 4th or 5th grade and someone sketched in the middle school bathroom not to go on school Friday or I will bang bang. This was then brought to the attention of the county and state police and we didn't have school that day and the police searched everyone's lockers for a firearm. Edit, this was in Pennsylvania. They were never caught and I do not believe they found a weapon. This was also at Derry Area Middle School while I was at Grandview for elementary. Probably the time a girl gave a guy a BJ in the bathroom. The guy filmed it and sent it to his friend. His friend sent all around the school. Eventually, the police had to get involved because the one guy was guilty of distribution of child pornography. One of the students wrote his own fan FIC with himself and some of the younger girls. Our football defense coordinator molester draped a large number of young boys of a long period of time, and no one did a thing about it. My department allowed the baseball team to line up and she gave them all blowjobs. Happened years ago and confirmed by veteran co-workers I knew. Recently, some of the boys that graduated years ago decided to inform the proper authorities. She was transferred to another school, still works in the district. A girl in my middle school was telling people she had a hit list of people she was going to kill, got caught with the list, and was sent to a hospital for a while. She came back a few years later in high school. Edit, seems like a lot of people had a similar occurrence in school. This was in Michigan. History teacher disappeared in the night with the French teacher's wife and the other French teacher made national news for sexually abusing boys. An overachieving student in my year went nuts and pooped in a bag in a teacher's classroom. She also thought she could run up trees. Turns out she didn't end up skipping a few years and going to uni early like she was predicted to do. The balance of genius is on a very thin edge, or the pressure from her parents drove her mad. A kid in my school who was very smart, got great grades, but also a kinda weird guy. Ended up having some sort of psychotic break while staying up for days on end working on a pretty big assignment for a class I had with him. He was already going above and beyond by making a very detailed video rather than a PowerPoint like everyone else. But before he even played the video for the class, he went on this super bizarre tirade about the meaning of life and all this existential stuff that made no sense for around 30 minutes before the teacher finally got him to stop. Later that night, he was apparently knocking on random doors at 2 a.m., trying to give the people in those homes the same weird speech. Then he went to a psych ward, and I haven't heard about him since. This kid was taking his GCSE's important exams in England until you get older and realize they mean fuck all. Whilst at an exam, some kids got onto his phone, went onto his notes and found a 4,000-word document consisting of his sexual fantasies with other girls in his year. Clearly paid attention in English as there was some clever wordplay, e.g., comparing his cock to some world-famous landmarks. The screenshots found their way into a lot of group chats. There were about 20 odd screenshots. To put into context how long it was, and it basically acted as a vague repellent for the rest of his time at the school. Back in high school, the entire football team was almost expelled because one girl gave blowjobs to every single one of the players in the locker rooms. Supposedly, they were all in a circle, and the girl was just going around to each person. The kicker? The girl's brother was on the team, and he let it happen. Edit, everyone's asking. But it's my understanding that the brother didn't partake in it, but he was effectively forcing her to not stop until she was done with everyone. The team ended up not getting in any major trouble, but the girl was suspended for a good minute. What a lovely brother. I assume he didn't get involved? Every single one of the players. My high school guidance counselor fucked a science teacher's wife and everyone knew about it. They got a divorce. Both teachers still work at the same school to this day, and students will never, ever let it go. The story has been handed down from year to year. During middle school, a few kids sold weed and someone that bought some smoked it in the building, which was just stupid. The kid that sold it to him didn't want to get in trouble, so he pulled the fire alarm so people wouldn't find the kid. We all got to go home afterwards. Honestly, that's some pretty quick thinking. Obviously not very responsible, but the kid that pulled the fire alarm had some pretty sharp self-preservation instincts. Plus, if he got crap for pulling a false alarm, he can legitimately say that he saw smoke. Long story short, the principal got arrested for hiding cameras in the bathroom. This was back in elementary. He was a total fucking creep. The Harlem Shake was a craze. We had an array teacher who desperately enjoyed being the popular teacher, so he got in on the craze. Invited 40 pupils from my year to his classroom at lunch and filmed his own Harlem Shake video, which in itself would have been against safeguarding rules. Thing is, he also taught sex ed. So everyone got into his cupboard before the start of the video for props. The video was essentially a group of 14-year-olds throwing dildos and condoms around the room while he, of his own accord, grinded on a life-size cutout of the Pope. He was suspended under investigation for half a year, but surprisingly kept his job. He was a lot more professional when he returned. A girl died in the pool during an event at the school. The swim teacher was blamed and was prosecuted. The girl who died was at my sister's class. Both were 7 at the time. That happened over 10 years ago. But the parents haven't had another child since. She was their only kid. A video leaked of a girl fucking herself with a spatula. We called her Spatula Girl. Funny at the time. Makes me feel bad now. Edit, a word. A guy in year 10 made a statement that the more compact a group of people are, the higher the death toll would be in a shooting, and we were genuinely talking about shootings, and somehow people mistook it that he was going to do it. It was a joke and everyone was playing along at first. Cut to 11 months later, he was in year 11. The whole school knows, rumors got out. The truth was beyond fucking twisted and changed to something different. Kids were actually scared to come in, parents were pissed, teachers were anxious. They had to search the kid. They kicked him out 9 days before he finished for good. Was still allowed to do exams, but had to do separately from everyone else. The police were involved and it made the news. But the news article is complete fake and bullshit. He also wasn't allowed to prom. This was around 4 to 5 years ago. He told me he was doing a lot better now. He went to a better school for 6th form. He says whilst he has moved on with his life, he will never forgive the bastards. Also, we live in England and guns are much harder to get, especially to the average person who knows nothing about how to get guns. That's fucking horrible. Poor lad, glad he moved somewhere better. You take the kid you suspect of being an angry, isolated person willing to lash out, and you isolate him further and make his life a living hell. Principal of the HS and director of athletics got caught embezzling money from the school to their bank accounts. They got caught after 50K went missing from the school's bank. Bomb threat. Got searched whenever we went in. Metal detectors, bomb dogs. The works. Couple kids invited an African American into their Twitter group called Golf NAS and were saying stuff like repeal the 13th to her. She tracked down the school and made a complaint. Made local news. Some dude with a tiny little pecker sent a picture of it unsolicited to a girl, and she sent it to all his friends. Wasn't long before like half the school had seen it. My former high school got on the news for having a history teacher lie for 4 years about being a decorated war hero. Guy claimed to have not one, but 2 Purple Hearts among other things, and never even served a day in the military. Edit, I can't directly link to articles because of doxing, but I'm sure you can find it on Google. But it gets juicier. The truth came out because his ex-wife exposed him, sending evidence he was making it all up to local news stations and the school. Would she do it? The history teacher was having an affair with another teacher in my school. We had a lot of weird teachers at my school, but I think this story shows just how much the administration hardly vetted teachers. Like, holy shit. We also had a guidance counselor get the boot for being a racist, but that's another story that didn't get as much publicity. One weekend, a couple of kids from the hockey team had a sleepover. One of the older boys from high school targeted them. He tied them up, raped them, slit their throats, and set the house on fire. One of the boys survived and is an incredible person. He's the chief of a fire department and has done motivational speaking. The murderer is now out on full parole. A girl gave a guy a BJ behind a building. Her braces got stuck on his dick. He pulls back, dick bleeding, punches her in the mouth. She goes and tells the principal. Parents get called in. He yells, "She cut my dick," while the door was open. Everyone knew then. She goes and tells the principal. What does she even say? I blew a guy behind the building, accidentally cut him, and he punched me in the face. Physical education teacher hit the principal on the head because he protested the students being treated roughly during sports class. We had a few. Some standouts. Student hid a pregnancy from her parents. She ended up giving birth at home and killed the baby. Teacher sexually harassed students. Students engaged in sexual acts at the nearby church where all our masses occurred, and we, the student body, were then banned for having our masses at the church. Edit, a few people are mentioning some cheerleader who had been on the news. This was the early 2000s. It did not have news coverage, didn't even go beyond our school, and our school did not have cheerleaders. Edit 2, this was in Canada. Edit 3, I've learned through this thread that this is not an uncommon occurrence, and my heart hurts. What happened to the girl? Hearsay is that she went to juvenile court and pleaded temporary insanity due to the emotional birth. I'm not 100% sure what was said is true. I just know that she did return to school partway through the following year, and was still dating the father until he graduated. When in middle school, the school forced us to give our phones to the vice principal, and they would stay there locked during the day. They got stolen, around 120 smartphones. Edit, changed president to principal, please don't bully me anymore LMAO. This locking up can backfire. One year we got together and all agreed to set an alarm on our phones for the same time, at max volume. After that they just said the phones had to be turned off. Though, nope, should have set them 2-5 minutes apart so they don't go quiet at the same time. Some of them will have gone to snooze by the time they realize what's going on and disabled the alarms, so you'd still get them going off at random times afterwards. That was clever of them, lol. What the fuck are you going to do with 120 phones? That's going to be a hard sell on the Facebook marketplace. Needed new numbers because his ex-girlfriend blocked his. When I was in 3rd grade, I believe, one of the principals at my school got arrested for disability fraud or something like that. Then when I was in the 7th grade, one of the teachers got arrested for being a pedophile. Seems like a common theme in this comment section, lol. My religion teacher was relocated after rumors spread that he sexually harassed a female student and hit a male student. I never found out if those rumors were true, but I mean there had to be something because teachers don't just get relocated in the middle of a school year. He was an ass. I wouldn't put it past him. In Germany, it's super hard to get fired as a teacher. I think you'd need a prison sentence to actually get fired. That's why he was only relocated. One of the female gym teachers at my HS got arrested for doing drugs on campus. Well, what kind of drugs? Here I was thinking the guy hacking a teacher's around and receiving exam answers was a big deal. This thread proved otherwise. Edit because people are asking. There was this guy in high school, pretty shy. Didn't have too many friends. Was always trying to fit in, kind of a poser but in an insecure way. I'll call him Pumpkin Pea for privacy reasons. So one day, Pumpkin Pea had the genius idea to impress his class and make them like him more. To get the chem geography teacher and retrieve the exam question from his school account, he used a USB stick with a program on it that retrieves saved passwords from most browsers, Chrome, Edge wasn't a thing yet, Firefox, etc. He waited for the perfect moment to plug it in. The teacher was taking a quick bathroom break. The whole class saw it, and he made up some excuse, don't remember what he said. Everyone kind of forgot about it. He checked the teacher's school account every day for a couple months, until finally the teacher uploaded the exam questions. Pumpkinpie downloaded the exams, then, and this is where he fucked up, he gave them to people in his class that he liked. Those people started talking, and eventually, people from other classes started asking Pumpkinpie if he could get the answers for their class too. So then exams came round. He asked his classmates not to make it too obvious that they knew all the answers. Of course, they did. They all had way higher grading than usual. One day he received a call from the school, which never happened before. Basically they said, "Hi Pumpkinpie, you need to come to the school and talk to the principal right now." He asked why, and then his heart dropped as she said, "Because it looks like you committed fraud." Apparently, they saw the discrepancy in the grades and went looking in the logs of the teacher's account access and found that it was accessed from an IP address which Pumpkinpie also logged in from. Dumb fucker didn't even use a VPN. Then he realized how much he had fucked up. See, he had just turned 18, which meant that he would be treated as an adult should the police ever get involved. Anyway, he went to school and had a really hard decision to make. Either the whole class would have to redo the exam, or he gave the names of the people he gave the exams to and only they would have to retake it. He chose the latter, and everyone hated him for it. Him and the classmates involved weren't invited to the graduation ceremony. Oh, and the hack teacher was considering pressing charges for privacy violation. Somehow he managed to convince the teacher not to. He's so fucking lucky. Anyway, he was already insecure, and at this point, he just could look any of his classmates in the eyes anymore. He ended up moving countries eventually, and now he uses a dumb alias online whenever he talks about it, something with a pumpkin. Not sure why at this point, since it's pretty obvious he's talking about himself. All I had was someone shit in the urinal at my school, and you are absolutely right. Sophomore year, a girl in my grade passed on a solid yellow up a hill, hit a family in a car and killed both parents and one of the kids. A week later, she's back at school in a brand new pickup truck, and never faced any sort of trial or anything. Her parents were extremely large farmers in the small rural town and had influence in the local court systems, I'm sure. Oh, did I mention she excitedly showed off her new truck when she came back? Fuck you, Taylor. Yeah, fuck you, Taylor. She committed 3 acts of vehicular slaughter and suffered no consequences. What the fuck? Reminds me of a kid from my school. Was the designated driver for a bunch of his friends, but spent the whole night sneaking shots and booze. By the time the party was over, his friends were drunk and he convinced them he just had a sip or two. Cut to 10 minutes later, he bombs around corner, jumps the curb and wraps his car around a tree. He walks away. His other friends spend the rest of their senior year in the hospital. One even lost his leg. What was his first post on social about? Lamenting the loss of his car. Was my favorite science teacher. Until we found out that he rolled up girls' skirts. What does rolled up mean? Please? The entire 11th grade of my school visits a concentration camp each year, and 2 years ago, someone brought weed. So 20 students were expelled and 15 suspended. Even the police got involved. Weed isn't legal yet here. How did 35 people get in trouble? How much weed did he bring? It was a couple years after I graduated, but the principal was caught giving money to gang kids, and was demoted. And then a girl got caught having sex with a 40-year-old man in the school bathroom. When the religion teacher cheated on her husband with the math teacher. Baptist High School. Teacher got arrested for something like 400 counts of rape against the youth pastor's daughter, who was a freshman sophomore during these incidents. They occurred in the classroom and on a bus he drove for Sunday school kids. He had a potential history of this stuff, but the school overlooked it. Creepy AF. Edit to add, since this kinda blew up. It was 400 counts over 2 school years. Same girl. She was the daughter of another teacher church staff who had already been abused by her grandfather in the past, so she was an easier target due to previous abuse. I feel like he's saying this, she was a minor, and obviously this is all statutory rape, but her history made her more willing to be used. Which is why this went on for so long. She was sexually promiscuous in the community too, which isn't inappropriate in and of itself. But that sort of behavior is often the result of past trauma. Sexualized kids seem to think that acting in a sexual way somehow validates them as people or gives them power or makes them more adult. It is a coping mechanism. Someone took their power through sexual behavior, and they can try to take the power back by being sexual as a choice, which is its own issue. Not to be too graphic, but if someone forces you to perform oral sex on them, that feels like giving up power. Choosing to blow 100 more guys or one rapist 100 times to feel powerful when making that choice is a trauma response. You shouldn't have to do that to be in charge of your own sexuality. Note, I say this as a person with a professional career in mental health and as a survivor of sexual assault myself as an adolescent. I'm not trying to armchair QB here, I've lived this shit on both sides. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I will say I've had several hells worth of experience. It's a sticky subject because every sexual assault victim will have a fucked up view of sex and intimacy. If they've had a history of sex being used to have power over themselves or they use it to feel powerful. The situation ended when he was pretty much outed by another student or staff who left an anonymous letter demanding he resign or they would go to the police. I don't think we ever found out who left the letter, but he resigned and someone told the police anyway and he was arrested, charged, tried, sentenced, etc. Whoa, WTF? What does the 400 mean here? Was the girl raped over 400 times? Reading these, and I think the scandals that happened at my school are minor in comparison. The ones I know of were, a kid was busted having into the system trying to change his grades. I think there was a claim of computer addiction, but he wasn't allowed on a school computer for the rest of his time at the high school. A teacher was known for trying to pick fights with students. I called out his bullshit and he was given a slap on the wrist, but he didn't try it again after that. There was a student who was accused of having a bomb that was a complete fabrication. Outcome was ridiculously blown out of proportion. The guy was a bit of an outsider and had made a duct tape top hat. Someone made a sarcastic comment about him smuggling a bomb in it. He responded in same level of sarcasm. Someone gets it in their head he has a bomb and they decide to kick him out of school because of viable threat. I was in 8th grade at the time, but the high school I would be attending the next year had a massive hazing scandal that made international news overnight. A group of junior girls trying to join the Powder Puffs went to play football against the seniors. Instead of playing, they got the shit kicked out of them. Were forced to sit in a huddle on the ground while paint and animal intestines were thrown at them, and one girl even had a bucket put over her head and it was hit with baseball bats. I heard later on she suffered permanent hearing loss. Someone recorded it. This was before smartphones, so someone had a literal camcorder and release it to the media. The senior girls that were identified were suspended, many of them losing college admissions, and some parents were arrested when it was found out they supplied alcohol. When I started high school, we had to endure multiple school assemblies every year about how hazing is bad, and participate in week-long seminars about being more caring and considerate of our fellow students.